Welcome back to the second part of the build series video. I'm here with Videla, and today we're going to be putting together his computer. Before we get into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications if you want to see more videos like this. Let's start this build with the motherboard. Here we have the MSI B450 Bazooka Max Wi-Fi. This is a micro ATX board with an AM4 socket. Some of the features we liked about this board is it has Wi-Fi and an M.2 slot. On to the CPU. Here we have the Ryzen 3600X. To install the CPU, you lift this lever and you find the little triangle. Then you're going to go to your CPU, open it up, and find the triangle next to the pins. You can see it's right here in the corner. So we're going to match this triangle up with the triangle on the motherboard. You're going to place it down gently, not putting pressure. It'll slide right into place. Once it's in, you pull the lever and lock it down. Now onto the CPU cooler. We have the Wraith Spire cooler here from AMD. This cooler comes with thermal paste pre-applied. To install this cooler, you have to remove this bracket on the motherboard with these 4 screws. You're going to take these 4 screws on the cooler and line them up with the 4 holes on the motherboard. You're going to put it right over your CPU and push it down into the holes. Make sure the wire for the cooler is on the right side so it could reach the header when you install it. Once it's in place, you grab a screwdriver and tighten the screws. You want to make sure you tighten them in a pattern where you alternate from side to side of the cooler. This ensures that it's tightened level and the thermal paste is spread evenly. Once it's all tight, you take the CPU wire and you install it into the CPU header. Onto the RAM. Here we have the Corsair Vengeance LPX 16 gig kit of DDR4. Each kit has 8 gigs and is rated at 3200 speed. To install these, you want to open the slots and you're going to line up the notches on the RAM with the notches on the motherboard. You're going to slide it into the slot and push down. You'll hear a click. You're going to do the same one for the second one. Make sure to check your owner's manual to ensure which slots you should be putting it in. For us, it was the A2 and the B2. On to the SSD. This is the Samsung 970 EVO M.2, 500 gigabytes. To install the SSD into the slot, you hold it at a slight angle and slide it in. Once it's in, it's going to be held in by a screw. This screw usually comes with your motherboard. Once you get the screw, you tighten it down and you're good to go. For the case, we went with the Dark Flash DLM21. This is a micro ATX case. We got the case in a matte white finish. We start here by removing the wire tie, holding in the case wires. Here I'm checking that the case has the right amount of stands to hold the motherboard secure. We were missing 2 on this case. These simply just screw in with a screwdriver. To install the motherboard, you want to hold it at an angle and slide it into the rear I/O shield. Once it's in, you want to make sure that all the holes line up with the stands. Then you start to tighten it. Now onto the power supply. We went with the Evga 700 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. To install these, you want to slide it into the bottom of the case. Make sure the fan is down so it blows out of the case. You're going to take the 4 screws and screw the power supply into the case. Now, you have to do something with all this wiring. Here, we're going to take the 24-pin cable and put it into the front of the case. Here's the CPU power cable. We're going to take that and put that towards the top so we can plug it in. Next, we're going to get the PCIe cables. These are going to power the graphics card. You're going to slide them in through the bottom and pull them to the front. At the front of the case here, we're going to take the 24-pin cable and plug it into the motherboard. This is the CPU power cable. We're going to take that and plug it into the top of the motherboard right here. We're going to remove the front panel of the case. This way we can install the case fans. We're going to be installing a total of 5 fans. Each fans are held in by 4 screws. These fans are non-RGB, so it should be an easy install. When you're installing the fans, make sure you put the wiring towards the rear. This way, it'll be easier when you go to wire it all up to the power. The fans are then connected to a fan hub. This fan hub is then connected to a fan header on the motherboard. Here I take the case wires and run it to the front of the case. I start by connecting the HD audio wire. It goes in the bottom left right here. Here's the USB 3.0 wire, and it goes right there. This is a USB 2 wire, and it goes right here on the bottom right. These wires are for the front panel. It's best to use the diagram shown in your owner's manual. Using the diagram, it helps out a lot with the installation of these wires. Some of them have negatives and positive sides. Make sure you put it in the correct order. Now I'm going to reinstall the dust shield and the front panel for the case. And here's the graphics card. We went with the 1660 Ti from Evga. To install this, you're going to want to open the tab on the PCIe slot. You're going to slide the graphics card in and you'll hear a click. Then you take the 2 screws and secure it into the case. Our case had this cover here. Now we will take the PCIe wires and power the graphics card. Once they're plugged in, I pulled the wire from the back to tuck everything and make it nice and neat. Now to the wiring in the back. This is a mess here. Luckily, we have a lot of zip ties. So I started by zip tying the SATA ports on the power supply. There was like 4 extra that we didn't use. I zip tied them together and I'm gonna tuck them in under the case. If we ever need to get to them, all we have to do is cut the zip tie and we'll have access. Once I tucked those in, I started to work on the rest of the wiring. I started from the top here. I just used a zip tie and worked my way down. I run the zip tie through part of the case. This will keep the wires close to the case and nice and secure. And on to the other side. I keep working my way down the case, securing the wires. Once I get to the bottom here, I try to group the wires together and add a zip tie just to hold it in place. Now that all the zip ties are in, take my wires cutters and cut the zip ties, giving it a clean look. That looks a lot better. Now I'm going to put on the rear panel. It's a lot easier with all that wire cleaned up. The rear panel is held in by 2 thumb screws. I had an extra RGB strip from one of my previous builds. As you can see here, I ran the strip along the top of the case and then plugged it into the RGB header on the motherboard. Time to put the front glass panel on, and we're almost done. DLive finally decided to help me with the build. Now, just kidding, he was a great cameraman. But here you can see him installing the antennas to the rear of the motherboard. And now we power her on. You can see DLive is very excited. The RGB strip that I added to the case adds a lot of light, and DLive was very happy. We finally got the PC all together. We installed and updated the drivers. DLive, tell them where they can find you at.
You can get to all my streaming platforms on Instagram at itsBDLive.
Thanks for watching the video. Remember to drop a like, and we'll see you on the next one.